So I think that everybody, including myself, is sold this story. If we just have X amount of money and we just like marry a pretty person, a nice house, and we have a nice car, we just do whatever society tells us to do, then we'll be happy. I basically played that out to an extreme, like a top 0.001, my business doing 20 million. This is not the story I was sold.
I love this so much, man, because I see this over and over again where it's fun to be spiritual, but it's just another ego identity. I will be spiritual when it's convenient. When it comes to actually having those hard conversations, when it comes to actually making the hard decisions, they're talking the talk but not walking the walk. And the easiest way to understand if you're just talking the talk as opposed to walking the walk is,
what is productivity? Productivity, by definition, is output per unit of time. And so working more hours, you actually work against yourself in the productivity calculation. If you work 10 hours and produce 10 things, or you work 60 hours and you produce 60 things, you're actually at the same level of productivity. But oftentimes as you work more, your productivity goes down. What if instead of working 60 hours and getting 60 things out, we could work 1 hour and get 60 things out, and then the other 59 hours we can do whatever the fuck we want?
You're probably the first person I've met that I feel as if is vibrating at a level that it makes me want to be even more in my best behavior, performative way, just a tad. And
yeah,
it's fascinating. All right, y'all, welcome back to the Question Everything podcast. It's the first time in about 2 years, and I have a very special guest, a man that only met about a week ago, but his divine path of the past handful of months is a path that makes me a loss for words because it is so similar to my current path in existence, and knowing that there are other people in the similar realm with similar missions has really just allowed for me to feel even more passionate and more driven on what it is we're meant to do for the world and how we're meant to evolve it for the big transition coming up. Now, a lot of you probably immediately hearing me say these words after 2 years of not hearing anything, it's probably like, what are you even talking about? And that's exactly what I want to have this podcast with today with my now good friend, Chris Walker. How are you today, my friend?
Right on, dude. We are bringing it back 2 years off. Excited to be on the show. I do view what's coming, or it's already happening if you look at it, as the biggest transition in humanity, I think, over the next 3 to 5 years. And I think a lot of people, when they hear about this, they'll say this doesn't apply to me, or I don't need to do that right now. But I think that when it comes to it in the coming years, people will see that that moving forward in this area is as important as knowing how to read or knowing how to use the internet. And I think that right now we're just early to this big transition in society.
Yeah. Well, it's so unique because this transition is something that has been written about for not only decades, but millennia. And to know that we're going to have this transition in our lifetime is fantastic. It's incredible. It's so important to understand. But it's also something that you are relatively new to understanding, right? This was only really coming to you, was it last February? Is that right? I'd love to kind of give the audience a backtrack on what's actually been happening the past few months to get you up to speed, potentially, what's going on.
Cool. Yeah. So let's just talk about like the whole spectrum. I'll go quick so people have context. So I was basically in my 20s, sort of like a lost boy in this 3D world, like having an average job, making an average salary, dating average women, having average feelings, like living an average life. And then I sort of got pushed into entrepreneurship when I was 29. I started my first company, and then started to build content, started to create instead of consume, started to question different parts of reality. Why do I go out until 2 a.m. on a Saturday? Like, why am I going to my friend's bachelor party before they get married? A bachelor party sounds like the stupidest thing to do right before you get married. Like, I start to make more money and have more resources and invest more in myself. And so some of this stuff starts happening for me. My business ends up, at that point, I start listening more to my intuition about like, what is the right path for me? What is not right for me? Who are the people that are right for me? Things like that. I adopted a journaling routine that I now call I've made into my own, called subconscious reprogramming in 2021, with the core premise of like what your thoughts and your feelings and your energy dictate the reality that you create and experience. And over a 3-year period of time, my company went from me by myself making $100 an hour in my living room to a $20 million business in 2022. My business partner then took over that business. I started to realize during that time, because there was a software market crash in 2022, 2023, and all of our customers were software customers, that my self-worth was tied up in how good my business did and how many followers I got and how many comments about how good I was or how smart I was. And so all of these reliance on external validation for my own self-worth worked great when everything was going well. And then all of a sudden, when things started not going as well, I realized that I'm on this never-ending hamster wheel. That you say, I'll feel better when I make $1 million. Then you start making $1 million and you realize you don't feel better. So you're like, oh, I guess it's 5 million. And then it's 5 million. The same thing with followers. I'll feel better when I have 20,000 followers, and you get 20,000. You're like, oh, it's not, I don't feel better. I guess it's 50,000. And so anything that you rely on outside of yourself, you eventually realize that it's a never ending game, because the things outside of you don't change how you feel. It's about how you feel internally. So I went on this quest starting in 2023 about how do I feel about myself independent of anything outside of me, which was like a huge thing. And that took me years, because whether it's like the woman or the person that you're dating, you have your self-worth tied up in how like pretty they are, or how popular they are, or what status they have, or things like that. Your business, your followers, your bank account, like all these things. So it took a while for me to get there. And then in the summer of 2024, basically like all of that stuff had been completed for me. Like I no longer needed anything. I didn't have anything to prove. I didn't need external validation, which was like a feeling that changed in me immediately. Like it was like a light switch, and how I interacted with the world ever since then changed. I on top of like intuition, I started to have like what I'll call like future seeing or like time piercing events, where my fingers would start to tingle, and then I'd have energy running through my veins up into my head, and then I'd basically like be able to experience different timelines in the future. So I would see different things happening. First, they would be about me or my life. Then it would be about my businesses and the types of businesses that I had. And then eventually I had one in February of 2025 that was basically like, here's everything that you're supposed to do. Here's what's going to happen over the next 10 years. Here's how you're involved. This is why you're here, which was super powerful and totally changed my life. That day, February 5th, 2025, was a permanent frequency upgrade for me. From what most people would consider like 4D to a permanent 5D state. I look at it a little bit differently than the 3D, 4D, 5D now, but that permanent upgrade of like, I no longer feel anxiety, fear, anger, frustration, any low vibration emotion just is not even accessible to me anymore, and hasn't been for quite some time. And the experiences have continued to increase in frequency, intensity, and magnitude, I guess. So it's felt like over the past, I guess it's been 3 months only, which is crazy, that I've been on like this avalanche, like skiing down an avalanche where you're going faster and faster, and it's getting heavier and heavier in like a good way, I guess. So not just like being able to experience what future potentials look like, but being able to interact with or see how you interact with time differently, to see through the constructs of reality. I call them the invisible contracts that you sign when you enter this world. People don't even realize that they're agreeing to thousands of things that don't have to be that way, but we assume that that's just the way it is because this is the world that we live in. So questioning all these invisible contracts that we unknowingly or unconsciously sign. And it basically, to just get to sort of the point here, is that I believe, or I know, it's not even a belief anymore, it's a knowing. I know that the world is going through a change in human evolution from the information era where people intelligence is measured by how much knowledge you know, and productivity is measured by how much output you deliver per unit of time in some linear system productivity way, where this thing called AI came a couple of years ago, or at least like was massively used since the past couple of years, which totally disrupts that reality that like a human will never output or out know or anything artificial intelligence. And so everything that humans have banked on for their intelligence and their success and their productivity metrics are now be replaced by robots in the next 3 to 5 years. And so where does that leave humans? And I believe that we're going through a shift right now that will shift into the frequency era. So from the information era, where your intelligence is measured by what information that you know, and we'll move into the frequency era, which is that your intelligence and your productivity is based on what frequency you emit, and the power that exists in the emitting of that frequency. And it will lead to a paradigm shift in all parts of societal architecture. So education, currency, government, how people are segregated and how people choose to live, food supplies, basically everything will be rethought. And it will lead to a bifurcation in society where you have the people that continue to live in the information age. They live in 15-minute cities, super dense electro EMF fields, AI surveillance. Everything they need is within 15 minutes, emotionally controlled packages of dopamine. So they're like artificially dopamine with news and media and porn and AI robots or all this different stuff. And you basically become a slave inside of this little 15-minute city. And you don't realize that in the coming years, the knowledge job that you do will be disrupted and taken over by artificial intelligence by like 2028. It's already happening. Like 20%, 30% of the software development jobs are gone already, but it'll be 80 to 100% soon. And so then you become basically useless to society. And you become somebody that lives off of handouts to the government and things like that, and you become someone that creates data inside of this control system. And then you'll have the other path where people that realize that like being able to maximize, stabilize your frequency and then use that to go through the world is like knowing how to use the internet in 1991. Like that's where we are right now, is that people that understand that frequency is where the world's going will start to tune that, and then once they do it, they'll realize, oh, I don't want to hang out with those people anymore. I don't buy into paying 40% of my taxes to this government anymore. I don't believe that money is the only like way to value currency. I think that currency should be rethought. Why is my marriage controlled by the U.S. government? Why do I live in this place? Why do I eat this food? Why do I buy into this media? Why do I use these pharmaceuticals? You'll basically question everything. Shout out to the podcast. And you will enter and build a new society based on how you believe the world should work. And I think it's going to be the greatest event in humanity to this point. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
It's so funny that you're having this awareness at the same time I am, but we're not reading the same books, or listening to the same podcasts, or watching the same movies. It's just like intuitive knowing that we feel around what the future will be, and we can see it already happening in the present moment. One thing that I want to ask you is something that I feel as if you have some very valuable codes about, and that is actually less about where you are now, but where you were back in 2021 and then 2023, in which you got to the point where you're like, I'm going to start relying on my intuition. I'm going to start writing down or utilizing my thoughts to create different habit patterns, behaviors, and actions, then get different results, and then got you all these incredible material metrics. This is the point I'm very interested in. You realized how to run really fast and really efficiently on the hamster wheel. But then there was a time where you're like, oh, it's time to get off the damn hamster wheel. What was that process like? What made you finally come to the awareness that this isn't the game you want to be playing anymore?
So I think that everybody, including myself, is sold this story that if we just have X amount of money and we just like marry a pretty person and we get a like house in wherever, a nice house, and we have a nice car and we just do whatever society tells us to do, then we'll be happy. And so I basically played that out to an extreme, like a top 0.001% runner on this hamster wheel. You know what I mean? And so in a couple of years, all of a sudden I go from like making 100K a year to my business doing 20 million in revenue, more than 100 people working at my company, hundreds of thousands of followers, speaking at conferences across the world, getting flown out to Sweden or Belgium to speak at a conference, getting paid 50 grand to be there for an hour and do a speech. All the driving like super dope cars, living and having like a high-rise condo in Boston, a dope house in Austin, and basically all the like the things that you're sold, like this is the life. And to achieve all of that stuff and realize, wow, I'm still not happy. This is not the story I was sold. You know what I mean? And I think that many people, when they hear that story, they're like, oh, fuck you, dude. Like I'm making 50K a year. I would love to have that life. And so most people can't fathom the experience until they experience it for themselves, which was me. And when I got there, I was like, something isn't right with this. Like, and so I went on my own. I got very good at writing down, I want to make X amount of money per year. I want to have this many followers, and boom, like, or I want to date this pretty girl, and then boom, there it is. Like, I'm doing it. And it would take effort and it would take time, but whatever I did, it would then basically eventually happen. And what I realized is that all the things that I was manifesting were based on a false ego of a story that was planted in my head around what I should want and not what I actually want. And so in the manifestation, it was exactly what I wanted in like the wrong way. Like you're dating a pretty girl and she's a total witch, like in the background, or like you're building a great company and like you're trapped in a jail because you're making a lot of money, but you're on 16 Zooms a day and you have no control over your schedule or your location or anything. And so all the things that I wanted, I got. And it didn't, and not exactly how I wanted it to be. And so it just made me start to question, like, what is my role? Like, I'm playing the role of this, like, influencer, successful CEO, workaholic. Like, this is the identity that I've constructed for myself. Like, maybe this isn't the identity that I want. And people live in this idea of a static sense of self. Like I take a personality test and okay, I guess because that's what the personality test says, that's what I am. No, it's just a reflection of your false self and your limiting beliefs is all a personality test does. And so your identity can be totally fluid and totally shifting. I can close the chapter of this identity of being a CEO workaholic and I can open a new chapter of an entirely different identity, and I have full control over doing that at any time that I want.
This awareness level that you're leading to right now, of which it takes a lot of understanding of the self and the human experience to understand that we can close a chapter of identity right now and move on to a new one today if we wanted to. What got you to the point of realizing that? Was this like a psychedelic experience? Was this meditation? What was it? Because that is the shift. That feels like the light switch that so many, I feel as if, are ready to do. Their soul is ready for that experience, but they're not yet being put in the situation to actually have that level of understanding.
So I'll say that a majority of these experiences that I've had throughout my life are sober experiences.
Wow.
So almost all of them. And it feels like as I listen more to my intuition, as I'm tuned more into my energy, as I do the things that I know I should do. So let's just back up a little bit because this is what blocks most people. I see it all over now. It's almost like I can read right through what people are saying. Like they're saying words and it doesn't matter. I can know exactly what they actually mean. Where people like you can tell they're communicating, I shouldn't be in this relationship, but I'm staying in it anyway because I'm a 32-year-old female and I should be married by now. So I'm going to stay in a relationship with someone that I'm not happy with, even though I don't want to, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And you can feel, I know I should do something different, but I'm not going to. In big decisions in life, I feel like I should leave this job and start my company, but because I'm either like scared, or I think that it would be too risky, or because like I'm scared what my coworkers might judge me for, or whatever, that I'm not going to do the thing that I feel called to do. And people will sit on, me too, I used to sit on those decisions for 3, 6, 12 months or more before I actually did something about it. And now I feel the intuition. This has been for maybe 6 months for sure, but maybe up to 12 months. I feel the intuition and I make the decision immediately.
So you just shorten the feedback loop from intuitive hit to integration.
Yes, I feel the energy. I acknowledge it. I know what to do, and I act on it immediately. And this isn't like, like I am going to go to this restaurant instead of this restaurant. That also matters. But this is like, I'm going to sell my company. I'm going to end this friendship. I'm going to leave this city. And the decision loop happens so fast that when you make that decision and then you go, you get quantum acceleration after every decision after that. So it's like, and so because I've recognized that and now trust in that feeling so much that I see basically nobody do for themselves, has been one of the biggest breakthroughs for me in terms of this like acceleration. And as I accelerate, I see more and more parts of how the reality that I thought existed is flawed and not real. From how I interact with time. Time is not a linear thing where you start over here in the past and then you go through this line and now all of a sudden here you are in the present, and then there's some future version of you out there that you have to chase and run after until you get to. No, that's not how it works. Like, time doesn't actually exist. We move through reality. Time doesn't move, we do. And when you realize that, you're like, oh, my future version isn't way out there. It's actually right here, right now. And the only difference is that right now I'm operating at a frequency of disempowerment and anger and fear. And I could shift into a frequency of enlightenment and love and ambition and appreciation. And all of a sudden I'm an entirely different person and experience an entirely different reality like that. And so there's been just like it's been an ongoing path of like unlocking and seeing new things. And the thing that I have come to realize is that this isn't something that is taught. We can sit here and talk about this the whole time, right? And it must be you must experience it through your own direct experience, which will be different than mine, which will be different than Cameron's. Everyone will have their own different direct experiences around this, and that is how it's felt. Now, when we talk about this, you might be able to intellectually understand some things. You may be able to feel the vibration in my voice right now, and that vibration then unlocks something in you. It doesn't even matter what words I'm saying. It's about the frequency that's coming through my voice right now. And so that those types of things I think are really important for people to see, because people, when you're in the information era, you are taught, oh, I just need to take another course. I need to go back to college or back to school and learn some new things. I need to listen to some guru who's going to tell me some secret sauce about something to do, and thinking that there's something outside of me, some information I have to go chase and have it in me, and that will make me different. When the reality is that everything's already inside of you, and you need to unlock the things that are already existing inside of you. It's nothing outside of you is going to change something.
I absolutely love that. Everything that you were hinting at about what life currently is for so many, that linear path of time, what feels like undying need for more information because that's what we believe will get us to the next level. That is what I would call the third density, right? That is the 3D reality that the far majority of humans on planet Earth currently exist in. what you've been able to do and what I've been able to do to some extent is through listening to our intuition and shortening that feedback loop from hit to action, and trusting it and integrating, embodying that fully has allowed us to rapidly rise in our consciousness and also rise in the density that we live in. So now it feels as if you're operating from a place where time, which is very linear for the far majority, and it is very much like there's 60 minutes between this time, it's very much a real reality at that density. But at the higher density you're currently at, a lot of that just goes right out the window. We understand it much better, in which time can be compressible, it can be expanded, and also intelligence is seen completely different. Intelligence is something you can, more than likely, I assume, this is how I view it, something you can ask for from above, from the cloud of consciousness above all of us, very similar to what we have on our Apple iPhones here, that we sync everything to the cloud. There is a real cloud out there, and Carl Jung calls the collective unconscious, that pulls down, what we call downloads, the codes for whatever it is we're meant to create in that moment. And for some like Da Vinci or Mozart, it's music or paintings. I know Michael Jackson has many quotes talking about this. Everyone we've ever admired that has done something really, really big in life, whether it's Steve Jobs or the people I listed, they all credit it to this stream of consciousness that's flowing through us. What I assume your experience has been, because this is what mine has been, is that consciousness flowing through us is now in the driver's seat of everything we do. Oftentimes we speak, it feels like it's coming through us like it is in this exact moment. It's not something we need to prep and plan and write down and do all this. It's now our way of being. It's just this constant state of flow in all moments. Is that a similar experience that you feel also?
Yes, and I view it as the field. And so in the information era, you had the internet, and the internet is invisible, right? Holds all this information, and then you can access the internet and be able to go through Google, type something in, get what do I need to know, and get it back, right? And now in the frequency era, you're not interfacing with the internet anymore, although the internet will still exist. You'll interface with the field, which is this infinite, high intelligent, dynamic field of intelligence that you can access, which is why you and I are having the same ideas about what's going to happen right now. It's because it's not our idea. It exists in the field, and we operate at a frequency and at a signal clarity that allows us to access that signal and decode it, just like we're a signal tower, and that's a radio signal.
It's exactly what you said when we met for coffee the other day. You said we're antennas. That's all.
Yes.
We just raised our antenna to a point where we're closer to that field, or that consciousness to that now receive everything we're meant to receive that's important for our own highest growth and the service we're supposed to make to humanity at this moment. It's like
yes.
And all life really comes down to is just how high we can raise our antenna, or how much we can clear our vessel or channel for that all to come through.
And then let's talk about time, because time, this is a pure physics calculation, which is time equals 1 divided by frequency, which means time is the inverse of frequency. In the physical world, it's an inverse linear calculation, meaning that if my frequency is 200 versus 400, then I get a 2x impact on time, meaning that if my frequency is higher, I get more cycles. I theoretically get twice as much done in the same amount of time, or I'll experience twice as much in the same amount of time. That's the 3D physical reality calculation. But when you're in the field, it's an exponential, non-linear, like quantum calculation, meaning as your frequency increases, your experience of time becomes exponentially different than someone that's operating at a lower frequency. And you can experience that through being able to stretch time, where you can feel like you get a lifetime's amount of work done in 5 real minutes. That exists. I know most people can't fathom that, but that actually does exist for many people. And that at a low frequencies, you feel like you're controlled by time. You're afraid you're behind. You're afraid that you're running out of time, or you don't have enough of it, or things like that, which is something that I've felt before in my life earlier on. And as you raise your frequency, you realize that you actually control time, not the other way around. Or even better said, that time doesn't even exist. Like, I don't like knowing what time it is. I don't care what day of the week it is. I think that, even years or age are made up sort of things. And that when people eventually will shift from living based on a time-based schedule, which means no matter how I feel or no matter what my frequency is, I'm going to do this thing because it's Monday at 10 a.m. And they will move to frequency-based schedules where it's I will do certain things when I'm emitting certain frequencies. And so when I'm at this frequency, I'm going to have everything ready. I'm going to sit down and transmit this message to the world. And when I'm at a different frequency, I'm going to put my hands over my chest, close my eyes, and breathe for an hour. And when I'm at a different frequency, I'm going to do all of the different administrative work that I need to do, or better yet, I'll just find someone else to do it for me. And that it won't be, it's 10 a.m., so I'm going to do this. It'll be, I feel this frequency, and so I'll do this now. And I don't know for sure, but my intuition is that every single animal on the planet doesn't plan for the future, except for humans. And we think it makes us smart and great. And I actually think, I'm starting to think now that it's actually a flaw, that like as I move into planning, I actually limit my potential. Funny story. So in January, the Big Ass Calendar by Jesse Itzler, great, like on theory, a great concept. I have nothing against this, but my girlfriend and I got them and we were like, okay, we're going to like map out our 2025. We still have them in my office today. So we're going through it and like we could map out to like the middle of February. So like 6 months out. And then anything after that, I was like, I don't want to commit to this yet. And it feels like now in May, we're almost in June, right? End of May. So it's only been 3 or 4 months since we did this, that I've made 5 or 10 years of progress in my life that I would have never been able to plan.
I completely agree. I have a tough time planning what next week will be.
I don't want to.
I'm like, what are we doing today?
Yeah,
done.
Like now, not even today, just right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The idea of needing to plan feels silly. And it's almost as if we need to plan, it's coming from we do not have faith in the future. We don't have faith in the present moment of what will happen from this moment to this moment to this moment. It's so funny because everything you were describing, I think you were describing a metaphysical level that we already are it's coming to the collective awareness of just flow. What am I in flow to do in this moment? Am I in hyper creativity mode? Do I want to write? Do I want to be on a podcast? Do I want to do this or that? Am I in the flow of I need to rest, I need to relax? Am I in the flow of administrative tasks, whatever it may be? And what I've realized is as long as I have faith and trust that flow will steer me in the right direction so that everything that needs to get done for a 3D business that I'm creating will get done, that's when so much of life's pressure evaporates immediately. Because if you have faith that just by your natural state, you will have enough energy for the proper amount of tasks necessary or the proper amount of experiences that we're meant to have in this moment, that it will all just like this fluid motion work perfectly. The need to stress about the future, the need to stress about, am I going to have enough time for this? Is this going to work? It just all evaporates immediately. It's just full faith and trust in the moment and your intuition to guide you to do what's right. And every time I do, all of my life's problems is coming from not trusting it. Because every time I trust it, life just feels so much more joyful, so much more present, so much more fulfilling. And that's when we get done 10x, 100x, 1000x, the amount of productivity and service to others that normally would have taken a lifetime to do in the span of a few days. Or for you, apparently 10 minutes, which is awesome.
Because planning locks you into linear steps in progress. Like I have to take this step, and then after that, I'll do this step. And you are limited by your own beliefs around what's possible. And so I equate it to almost like you the whole world's around you, but you have binoculars on and you're looking at this one little thing and you're saying, this is the only thing that I can see. This is how it needs to happen and when it needs to happen and things like that. And you miss everything else in the world about how it could happen 1,000 times better and 1,000 times different than how you can think about it. And that when we try to control how and when something happens, we actually dramatically limit ourselves, which is so counterintuitive.
It's like your mind is putting on blinders that are stopping the miracles of reality
all
from
around
happening.
you. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, if you want to put in the blinders and get there, you can, and it will happen in the time frame that you say it will. If you say it's going to be hard, you say it's going to take 10 years, you're right, it will. But you're also blocking yourself from the infinite amount of possibilities, people, resources,
Gifts,
opportunities,
yeah.
gifts, miracles that can take place that would make whatever destination we're trying to get to happen much more efficiently and also in a more joyful way. Like life is
Yeah.
not meant to be suffering. Life is not meant to be terrible. That only happens when things are linear. But if we fully trust in that moment, we can access so much love, so much flow, so much creativity, so much of a human experience that makes everything we've done prior when we used to live in the Matrix feel robotic, feel inhumane almost to live. And once you see it this way, once you just get a taste of what this life really is, you can't go back.
It's a permanent upgrade.
Yeah.
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 One thing I wanted to chat about is that as I've gone through these experiences, many people that are looking to have a label or a container to put it in are like, oh, so Chris Walker's spiritual now. And that has just never resonated with me, to be honest. And I've been thinking about it more. And this has no knock on spirituality, which I know can be super effective and meaningful to lots of people. But I want to be clear that we're talking about something different here. And so a couple of notes about it. So I find the difference to be spirituality is like meditating in a prison, or like taking a vacation from a prison to do a silent meditation retreat or an ayahuasca ceremony, and then 7 days later coming back and living in your prison. And that what I'm talking about is fucking leaving the prison. You know what I mean? And so if you stay and you live within the constructs of the 3D world, even if you meditate and do breath work and do a meditation retreat and do psychedelics or whatever, if you come back into the world and you come back into the jail and you go to your 9 to 5 and you are overworked and you can't tune to your frequency and you don't stay in alignment, you don't follow your intuition because you feel like you're trapped and you're dependent on other people's opinions of you, and you consume all the media and you're back in this thing, it's a dead end.
It's actually doing a disservice to the experience you just had. The ayahuasca trip, the mushrooms, whatever it would have been, the trek in the jungle, whatever. If you go back into the same reality that you had before that experience, you've learned nothing.
Precisely.
All of these medicines, and I've done a lot of mushrooms in my life and still do cannabis, like it has changed my life. Don't get me wrong, but all it's doing, I believe, is temporarily raising our vibration or raising our antenna to receive information about ourselves and about the world around us that we were unable to see prior to that in the current state of the prison matrix that we live in. And so if you have that temporary rise in your antenna and learn so much about it, but then go back into your world and refuse to integrate it, you're actually doing the biggest disservice possible to yourself, to everyone around you, and in particular, the medicine you just took. I see this over and over again. And you've been to Costa Rica, you think about going to Bali, like you've seen this culture to the maximum. Those are fantastic places, high vibration places, but there's a spiritual culture around it in which it feels like people are going to Peru to do ayahuasca every 6 months, every 3 months, just get the same hit of dopamine, whatever it is, to make them feel alive again. But the whole goal is for it to legit be a medicine to heal you so that you don't allow yourself to get sick again. And that happens through integrating what it is that you learned. And it seems like for you, this is so fascinating because I haven't met this many people that are vibrating this high and have this level of awareness that haven't utilized psychedelics to that level. It seems like you've gotten a lot of this simply from just sober existing.
80%.
And rapid integration and embodiment, which has just skyrocketed you to have this permanent upgrade in which you can never go back. That is a rarity, and that is something that I am infatuated by. But that's a whole other story. I would love to understand what your experience currently is with spirituality, if any at all, and what are some some good things about it? What are some things you don't necessarily like about it? What is kind of your feelings on it at this moment?
So it doesn't really matter like what what I think are benefits or not. I think what's important is that people don't put what we're talking about in that category and then write it off for them as, oh, like this is spirituality. That's not me. That is optional. That like, so yeah, just push it to the side. Like the reality is that the world and humanity is changing forever with the rapid evolution and expansion of artificial intelligence and generative AI. And that right now, like tuning your frequency and seeing reality in a new way is equivalent to using the internet in 1995 and understanding the internet is going to change the world. It's going to change. There will be winners and there will be losers. And I want to be a winner, not that there's that binary. So I'm going to learn how to use the internet. Just like how right now smart people or people that see how this is going to work, I'm going to figure out how to be in tune with my frequency and to elevate and stabilize my frequency. And that it is non-optional and not spiritual. It is a part of human evolution that is happening. Things that I see for people that are on the spiritual path, as they call it, is that you eventually get caught in a dead end loop, which is like, I need to heal something. I go and do like either plant medicine or journal or something else, and then I figure out that something happened to me when I was a kid, and so that's why I'm like this. And then you do nothing about it, and then 6 months later you do the same thing, and you have this initial enlightenment or awakening, and then eventually you just are at a different level of sleeping again. I think that there's also like over feminized mysticism around like, oh, like it's everything's so good when we're like living in alignment and when I'm in flow and blah blah blah, and you have a bunch of people that like talk about being in flow and actually get nothing done and contribute nothing to society. So it's like all talk and no actual anything. And then lastly, I think that like there's a spirituality as a brand. Like it's cool to be spiritual for some people now, and they wear it as like almost like people that do CrossFit. They wear it as like part of their brand. And that I see a lot of people that talk about living in alignment or whatever you want to call it, like that, following your intuition. And it's easy for them to talk about it until they have to make fucking hard decisions. And they have to leave the toxic relationship that they're in, and they have to quit the job and do something that's scary, or they need to leave the town that they live in that's safe and their friends and go somewhere else where there's going to be more aligned to their mission. And everything's easy to say, oh, I'm living in alignment, until you actually have to make hard decisions that you don't want to make. And I think for everybody, it's like that. That the whole value in trusting your intuition is to be able to trust it, whether it's like, I shouldn't be in this seat, I should be in that seat, or whether it should be like, I should leave my marriage, and to treat both of those hits as the same level, and with the
same weight and
given the same weight
action.
Exactly.
Immediately. I love this so much, man, because I see this over and over again, where it's fun to be spiritual, but it's just another ego identity that people have adopted. Yeah. And you know it's an ego identity because we're able to do it for some things in life, the easy things, the enjoyable things, the things that gets us a lot of external gratification and validation. But when it comes to actually having those hard conversations, when it comes to actually making the hard decisions, well, number one, you still see it as hard as opposed to easy when they're all the exact same.
That is huge. We should talk about
duality. We should talk about that too,
point.
duality, because that's a whole myth in itself. But there's also, I will be spiritual when it's convenient. They don't know. Yeah. They don't know they're doing that, but people that see past that see that on their forehead. There's something about people where they're talking the talk but not walking the walk. And the easiest way to understand if you're just talking the talk as opposed to walking the walk is, do you have what you want out of life? Mm. Is life exactly how you want it? Do you feel confident because of your own experience, your own practice you've had in the past to which you know when a hard conversation needs to be had, when you know it's time to step into a completely different reality, whether that's density or environment, you have to move locations, whatever it is, that you're immediately like, sounds good, I got it, I can handle it. It's this level of confidence that takes place when you have finally harmonized your ego, in which it's not acting up around certain people, around certain things, in which you can now navigate life with this level of fluidity and ease.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a wave of an ocean, pretty much,
mm-hmm.
that unlocks, like you were saying earlier, this existence that is fully in the present moment, that is filled with love, that is filled with enjoyment, and also hyper productivity when you want, and immense service to others. One thing you did say that I'm kind of questioning a little bit is, I don't know if it's everyone's path to be in deep service of others. Do you know if that's true or not?
I don't really think I'm not sure I said that, but it's a good question. So I could speak for my own experience,
Mm-hmm.
which is that at the beginning of my life, for a majority of my life, I focused on how do I benefit myself. And then I went through a period, which is how do I benefit my businesses, which is higher than just yourself, because you're impacting the employees that work for your company, the customers of your customers. You have more of an impact, a spread impact through a business than just focusing on yourself. And then my life truly became blissful when I realized that that all that matters is helping other people experience these things, and to see past this stuff. And that for me, that was a huge unlock. Is everybody meant to do that? I'm not sure. But if you think about somebody that's a musician, or makes shoes, or teaches a dance class, or builds a village that high frequency people live in Portugal, or figures out a new way to farm so that food doesn't have pesticides in it, or anything. Like, if you think about it, almost anything that you're doing is in service to others.
That's the distinction I wasn't able to make in my mind just a minute ago, but I 100% agree with you, where it is in everyone's best interest as an individual and for the collective to commit to a life of service to others. And that will happen naturally and intuitively. One thing I was wondering is everyone supposed to do it at the scale of which we are or will be doing?
No. I think that when I look at this bifurcation in society, I think that 60 to 80% of humans that are alive today will choose to live in the old world, in 15-minute cities, going to an office, living a comfortable life, getting made obsolete and redundant by artificial intelligence, and eventually not having much to contribute to society as a whole, and to be purely a consumer that is based stipend by the government or tech giants. A majority of people will consciously or unconsciously choose to live in that reality. And then I think that there will be 5 or 10% of humanity that chooses, at least the ones that exist right now. And then you'll see a switch, just like the Industrial Revolution, or the switch from the Industrial Revolution into the information era and the internet, that there's overlap between the people that native analogs that like didn't grow up with the internet and choose not to use it, versus native digitals. And there's an overlap period of time where both of those realities coexist.
That's what you believe we're in right now? We're
at the beginning. We're at like the internet is becoming consumerized, like that in 1991 to 1995. Like, we're in that point, but for the frequency era, and that people will have a huge challenge in understanding the ripple effect and the impact on society that will happen when you're not valued by how much information you store in your brain and you use to do a job. And when that goes away, how the entire constructs of the current reality have been built around that principle. And that over time, people will realize that they will get more out of sitting in this chair with us for 2 hours than going to college for a year. That there's an entirely different method of how value and how intelligence is measured, and that currency will flow differently. Right now, currency is flowed based on your role, and how you fit into hierarchy and your credentials. Like that's how currency is calculated in per unit of time or something like that. That over time it'll be totally nonlinear and have nothing to do with credentials. And so I think people underestimate how much of reality is built off of my brain stores information and I use that information to produce something. That's everything about reality, and how you go about your life is based on that right now. And that when that goes away, the possibilities and what will happen in human evolution.
I've noticed that so much in my personal life, because in the past year, having now being a coach, and a coach is the only word I can really describe it that the 3D understands. But
we should talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love to.
People try to label me as a coach, and I'm like, no, that's not me.
And
no.
I don't know what I would be. But, starting a year ago, even though, at that time being 24 years old, now I'm 25, people would pay me a few $100 an hour to just be around them, to just talk to them about whatever it is that's going on in their life. And this is unfathomable of why you would ask a 24-year-old about life advice, and why very successful people would mark off a large part of their calendar to see me whenever I let myself be available to them. And the words you just said connect so deeply with me, because all I have been really doing is just sharing my frequency with them.
That's what it is.
That's why I don't need to market, really. The right people, when they're ready for it, they just come. They're attracted in this way that they are even unconscious too. Mm-hmm. They don't know why. Just like, I just want to be around you. And then they come. So this is already happening.
It is.
And it's so fascinating, because when you look at it from a metaphysical level, it's not just about what we are saying in English. Mm-hmm. It is this energetic vibration that we're exuding, that if they are in close proximity to, they will get a piece of.
Yes.
And when you see it at that level, and when you listen to this podcast, we're literally speaking energetic codes into their computer software, hardware in here. When you look at it through that lens, it makes perfect sense. That feels like that is the transition that 5 to 10% of people that are open-minded enough and have the awareness enough to understand, that awareness level will allow them to transcend to a completely different reality than 80 to 90%, or whatever number you said, that would stay in that prison. It's going to have even firmer doors going forward.
We'll see if we want to go down this rabbit hole, because it's going to open up a lot. But basically, I have quantified 6 levels. I don't like the word yet, but of the human operating system. From version 1, which is the default software that gets installed, or actually the default software is actually level 3. And then when you're like 5 years old and you go to school and your family, and you get programmed back down from level 3 to level 1. But anyway, the first 3 levels are really based on information, and being able to be coached into something. And then to get from level 3 to level 4 to level 5 to level 6, it's actually a frequency trade. Like it's felt, it's not learned. And that I think many people are looking for a coach to get them to level 3. We're happy to go through all the levels and what they mean if you want, but at a core principle, to get to level 3, and then they seek a coach to get from, they don't even recognize the levels, but they're like, I want to get to the next level, right? And they're like, I'm looking for a coach to get me there, that's going to give me information, and they miss the fact that to get from level 3 to level 4 is actually a trade of frequency. that you spend time with a high frequency person, and if you're open to it, it's not that everybody just accepts it. You actually have to have like a shared integration of frequency that then you literally go through a permanent ongoing upgrade in your frequency from level 3 to level 4, etc. And that frequency trade-off is very hard for people to quantify in the 3D world. And so they are looking, for coaching or something like that. But literally, people that operate at a high frequency can change somebody's life in 5 minutes. And that the realization of that fact will dramatically change how currency and value exchange exists in the world.
Because there are so many limiting beliefs that have been programmed within us to not allow that understanding of that even being a possibility to take place. And it takes a lot for someone to get to the point at which they are able to remove themselves from the program way of thinking to even fathom that reality. But once you see it, you can unsee it. And then it feels like the rest of our life now comes from what is it going to take to get to that next level.
Yeah. And then I think it's super important because in many relationships, it's like the coach knows things that I don't know. So there's like a superiority, inferiority relationship between them. And I don't buy into that at all. I believe that every human has innate value, is super depending, no matter what frequency they currently operate on, that everyone has innate value that is all the same. So I don't see myself, even though I've been able to operate at a higher frequency, I've also know what myself looks like at the low frequency. And so I don't see myself as better or ascended or superior to anybody. And if I'm in a relationship with someone, it's not a coaching relationship. It's like we are two human beings. I can see how powerful and certain and all of these things inside of you that already exist. Like, it's not like you're less than me. And I think that is so important to get across, because even whether it comes to religion or anything, the idea that like I am down here looking up at someone for them to pull me up or something like that, when it's not upward and outward, it's downward and inward. It's like coming into me. And that shift in relationship has been so, it's not something that I consciously thought about, but anytime, because like some people that are spiritual, like, well, I just have this thing tells me what to do and I just have to obey, as if you're like a slave to this thing. And it's like, no.
You are that thing.
Exactly.
Whether you believe that's God, you are also that thing.
Yes,
it is you. It is a part of you you're
Yeah.
putting online. One thing you said that clicked so much for me was that when people pay me to be around them and just allow for whatever natural conversations meant to happen, whether we sit or silence or we talk for 2 hours, whatever it is always me saying exactly what they need to hear in that moment to believe in themselves more, to remember more. It's, I don't want to call it like a motivational speaking to them, but it is giving them the codes to activate what is already within them.
Exactly.
It's like allowing them to remember more clearly. And as they remember, they can feel in their body as if it's not new information, but just like I just walked into a room and turned a light switch. And walking in the room, turn on a light switch. Walking in the room, turn on a light switch. It's this unique process where all we are doing, again, we're not being the guru and they're the person who is who's praising us, obeying us, whatever it is. We're just showing them through an equal level, hey, look over here, turn this on. Hey, look over here, turn this on. And then they light up and they feel 10x better and their whole life is completely changed. But we haven't done anything to them besides just remind them of who they are.
We'll help. Oh, yeah, this will be good for you. So it's called the calibrated mirror concept. And so when one human looks at another human, that other human is simply a mirror back to them. The thing is that most humans come with distortion. So they have shame or guilt or ego, or they want something from you or something like that. So the picture that they reflect back to you is distorted so that you don't actually see who you really are. You see a distorted picture. And so when you go through reality, it's why when you interact with some people, you feel way better about yourself. And then when you interact with other people, you feel bad about yourself. It is this concept called the calibrated mirror. And so you, at some point, a human will reach a certain level where they don't need anything from you. They have purified all of their limiting beliefs and things like that. There's presenting no distortion back to you. And it's not a visual mirror. It's a energetic or frequency mirror. So when someone is around you, they get reflected back a clear picture of who they really are. And there is no words needed for this, which is another thing that people that are stuck in the information age will be hard to wrap their heads around, but there are no words needed for this process to happen. And that it reflects back, like, I see that you're down here and these things are getting in your way. Like, I can see right through that. I can see through the mask that people wear. I can feel their guilt or shame or jealousy or all these negative emotions. I can see past it and see this is who you really are. This is what you're meant to do. And then without even telling them, they can feel it. So it's called a calibrated mirror concept. And that over time, the society will run on this concept, meaning that as AI and deep fakes and robots and things like that continue, somebody will need to be able to use frequency to discern truth from fake. And the way that you will do it is by being able to feel someone's frequency. That's like 5 years from now. This is not a sci-fi concept. That's like 5 years from now. And that your access to a house, a community, an environment will be based on what frequency you emit. And it'll be totally objective and it will be impossible to fake.
Which is actually ultimate equality, because
Exactly.
everyone has the opportunity to be whatever frequency they so choose, which is a complete different. We're not segregating by race or by religion,
socioeconomics or anything.
It's simply by frequency. Oh man, it feels like it's going to for the group of people that choose to live this life. It's going to solve all the problems that has existed in the old paradigms completely. Oh, one thing that came up for me in that mirror example was that if we are someone who wants to help others or feel called to help others in this way, we kind of do naturally with everyone we see, but we want to set a container up in which people can be in our presence and we can spot these things, or what I would say shine light on these darker areas. It takes us having a very clear mirror so that we see ourselves clearly, to know that we're not projecting our own shit onto them. And with that clear mirror, it's also kind of like one of those mirror window things. You can see into them clearly. And then I love how you said, for me, it's still very intuitive. I don't actually see it on their body. I know some can.
Yeah,
mine is all intuitive.
It's not visual.
It's all intuitive for you too?
So most of the time my eyes are closed. And when it happens, it's like you could so my eyes are closed, so you cut off my sight basically. And then I don't close my ears, but you could close my ears and I don't need either of those senses. And it's like I have a sixth sense. It shows up as like an energetic field underneath my eyes, where I can feel the pain and the trauma and the things that are getting in this person's way. I have something, people have something to prove to other people, and it comes through in like urgency and like overworking and like having their worth tied up in achievement and production. And you don't even need to see it or hear any words from them. I can just feel it. It's almost like, when I think about it, it feels like a sense that some animals have, that like when they're like in the jungle and hunt, I'm not hunting anybody, but like when they're hunting, they can feel fear.
It's palpable. It's like it's in the air.
Yes,
yeah.
you can sense it. And then to not use that to hunt, but to be able to know that, so you can like almost, it's not even words required, like energetically push it out of them, like force it out. And so there's when you take the calibrated mirror concept and you play it out much longer, there's a bigger concept, which imagine that you have 100 people in an area, and there are 99 calibrated mirrors, and there is one person that has shame and guilt and ego and is selfish and things like that. And everyone's standing there projecting out and seeing the picture back of everybody that you wouldn't need to say a word, and you'd know exactly who didn't belong there. And that principle will exist in the world. That people will be able to feel that this person doesn't belong around me. I can already do it, and I can feel when even good people, high frequency people, have had an experience where they've gotten residue from low frequency environments. I can feel them being different.
I would love to be just fully transparent with you.
Yeah.
I just came back from a weekend where I was in a completely different environment. I was across the country, visiting some family, doing a bunch of other things. I was around vibrations that I normally aren't around in this environment. And I felt for the past 12 hours myself feeling lower. And so my mind begins to not just say wander more, but the voice within my head of the judge is more prevalent than it was a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so this hasn't happened in a very, very long time. But even you coming over to the house, I'm like, this dude's on another level. I got to be a certain way, you know, I got to make sure the house is good and make sure, you know, and of course there's nothing wrong with making sure that you feel great and that things look great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I felt it was coming from a tad bit of fear. And I haven't felt that in a long time. And I think it's a mixture of you potentially being at a different level than me at this moment, if that's even a thing.
I don't believe in that. Yeah.
Great. I'm glad to hear. But I'm like, I feel these seasons of my life that can go with any week where I can feel a little bit lower. And then I do some things I feel a little bit higher.
That exists
where
for sure.
That voice isn't there as much as it may be. So it's, and maybe again, it's funny I say this, because even me saying that you're potentially on a different level is the reason why I'm feeling this way, because I still have the illusion within my own mind that you may be at a higher level. And what makes me believe that is the energy you exude that I feel as if is so powerful, is such a strong vibration that I have seen by very, very few people. You're probably the first person I've met that I feel as if is vibrating at a level that it makes me want to be even more in my best behavior from somewhat of even like a performative way, just a tad. And it's fascinating. I love it. It feels like a mirror for me to understand where it is I am not yet free, where I'm still operating from a place of the ego. And you sharing that you don't even see it as levels is what makes you of that vibration.
Yes, and I for myself and everybody, right, you have a default frequency. It's like when on the normative, when everything settles, where do you fit, right? And so it's like your default frequency. And then you oscillate up and down between them. Ideally, the peaks and the troughs are actually very low, so you have stability and coherence in your default frequency. But the thing for me is that there's no judgment around where you are. Yeah. And so, and then it's again goes back to the mirror concept, is like, almost that you feeling like I might judge you for where you are is just showing you that you judge yourself. Like I'm not doing anything.
And it's so funny because I really don't believe I'm gonna take that back, because this weekend I was judging people upon being around people in a deep level of shame, a deep level of guilt. And you can see with every ounce of their being that they're there because of just the type of conversations they have, how they carry their shoulders. It's written all over their body and their energy. Everything it's all about energy. And so their mindset, how they present themselves, you can read it like a book. And I was judging them. And so I can only judge them. I can judge anything externally only if I'm judging myself internally, because it's a direct mirror. And so even though I think I've risen quite a bit, even from 48 hours ago, I still feel it ever so slightly. It's coming up around you, but it feels like you may be at a state, and correct me if I'm wrong, but do you have any inner judgment still? Like, do you ever catch yourself? Anything like that?
No, I don't judge myself. I will have small elements of self-doubt about decisions and things like that. But even that is dissolving pretty quickly. I think that, where was I going to go with this? That the people that you're around carry a frequency, and that frequency is contagious. And as much as like you're operating high, like if you go and spend the rest of your life with people that are at 200 hertz and like whatever, like super 3D fear, scarcity, controlled beings, and you go and live with those people, that over time they will bring your frequency down through transmission and like just by that. And so what will happen is that over time, and it's actually already happening, but it will happen, more people will be aware of it, and it will happen at a more mass scale, that people that operate at a higher frequency will no longer tolerate being around people that are at a low frequency because they can feel what it does to them. And that will create the beginning of geographical segregation by frequency, where people that feel these frequencies will choose no longer to live in cities most of the time, and that people that are stuck in 3D will live in 15-minute cities for the most part. It won't be that extreme. Right now, you can have a high frequency being that lives in a city, like myself, and you can have a low frequency being that lives in a jungle. But over time, there will be less of that overlap. There will be more conscious segregation around it. I cannot overemphasize this point for me, is that as what's been happening for me, through me, to me, however you want to look at it, since last fall until now, which has been, I feel like I've gone 10 years in progress in 9 months, something like that. I feel that it is primarily driven through the people and environments that I am around, that I just, not even consciously, only spend time with people that oscillate at a similar or even higher frequency than me. And that I spend most of my time in environments that have high frequencies. And I come back to Austin. I'm moving out of my apartment in Austin because the frequency is too low for, like, the city is too low for me. And that by those conscious or unconscious choices to like get magnetized to those people, that like your frequency goes up really fast. And I think that people really struggle to leave the relationship they've been in for 8 years, even though their girlfriend or boyfriend is super, super low frequency and holding them back, or to like not go and visit their mom every Sunday because their mom is a downer. Or almost anything, leave their hometown that they grew up in with all their like close friends from high school, even though it pulls them back into old timelines and low frequencies.
And that is rooted in fear and scarcity, that the universe or God, whatever is out there, will not provide something greater once we finally close that door. We're making the assumption that once we close that door, a million other won't open that are much more suited for our vibration.
So true. Yeah.
But man, I love that you're saying this, because less than 24 hours ago, Elle and I were on a plane back from Orlando, and we were around a group of people where it felt like the first time, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, that we're at a certain vibration in which people at 200 hertz, or on the map of consciousness, I would say, in deep shame and guilt in the 10, 20, whatever it may be, they were sitting right next to us at dinner. They were just around our awareness. And on the plane home, we're like, we're never doing that again. We cannot allow our energy to be abused like that. I look at it like that. Like, that is self-harm if I'm going to put myself in circumstances that dramatically lower my vibration, over an extended period of time. And like, there's no need for that ever. I'm only going to have team members, only going to have clients, only going to have community participants, only going to speak with the family members that are at a vibration that when that interaction is done, I feel lighter. I feel more energized. That must be it going forward, because there is no social obligation just because someone shares our last name that we have to be in their life. We have to see them every Sunday or every few months. That doesn't exist. That is a 3D matrix construct that keeps us down. That's obligation energy. So how long has it been that you've been hyper vigilant when it comes to your environment?
9 months to a year.
9 months to that feels like the biggest shift I've made in my life.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like a big deal, but like spending a weekend like in your hometown for Thanksgiving, if your family is full of like your uncle is a big downer and he's at Thanksgiving, and you go back and see your friends from high school and they're pulling you back into a bunch of garbage. And it doesn't even have to be actions that you take. It's just being in that environment is the energetic or frequency equivalent of going on a heroin bender all weekend. Like that's what it has that much of a negative impact on you, but people don't see it for what it is because it's not easily measurable. But people that can feel it and know. And so I think that has been actually probably by far the biggest accelerant to me, because through that intentionality and cleansing of the frequencies that are around me, the doubt and the chatter that rubs off from those frequencies goes away, and then all of a sudden you're listening, you're getting reflected back from those people who you really are. Then you're following that and you're taking action around it quickly. The actions that you take then perpetuate more belief, more success, more, I don't even look at it as confidence. It's just more confirmation that you're doing the right things. And it creates this, the only way I was in Costa Rica, the only way I could describe it is it feels like I'm skiing down an avalanche where time is folding, meaning that like what used to take a month then took 2 weeks. Then took 2 days, then took 2 hours. And like all of a sudden, like you're like, holy cow, like I just built like an entire 10-year business plan in 30 minutes. Like this feels totally impossible based on how my beliefs thought about the world before. It's until you experience it, it's just hard to wrap your head around how that can be possible.
It feels like this is something that everyone who's on that path, I guess, if that's even a thing, everyone who has this realization, this awareness, will get to this understanding. But at this understanding, like we said over coffee the other day, there seems to be these roles in positions that certain people will take. It seems like with you, how fast you can build, how fast you can manifest, whether it's downloads or your own organic thoughts into reality. You seem like you're going to be an architect for the new world.
I am.
I am already.
I am. Yeah. The architecture is almost done.
How so?
Most people won't understand what I'm saying here, but I'll explain, or I'll do my best to explain what happens. So whether some of the experiences, my fingertips tingle and then the energy runs through my veins, and then I used to view it as I'm seeing the future. But in reality, I'm setting the energetic structure for what's going to happen. And I used to do it, it would all happen in one shot. And so like in one experience, I would build the 3-year vision for my company. And then maybe a year down the road, some dynamics have changed and we should have pivoted direction, but it was built in one shot. So you basically build all the way there. And now it's almost like building a sky-rise building, like floor by floor. So it comes in smaller waves. And so as things develop, you're like, oh, like now building 4 floors, now I have more information for how to build the 5th floor differently than if I just built it all at once. I also don't view it as me building. So maybe as I take back my language, it's more like me accessing the architecture that exists. Like it's going to be built whether I do it or not.
You're just a conduit for it.
It's just happening through me. And so in these experiences, time pauses more or less. It slows down dramatically. Pauses is not factually correct. It slows down dramatically. And I might spend what feels like a year or 10 years in my head for every minute to 5 minutes that passes in real life. And it's almost like you're building a city, but it's like building a world. It's almost like world building. And so how will the currency work? What's it going to, you can literally see the visuals of like what a school is going to look like for kids in 10 years. And that when all of that happens, you're basically setting the energetic architecture. Once it's set, then the things that are needed to make that real magnetize to my frequency. And so I set it, and then all of a sudden, like, I know that there is a killer, like, developer or technical person that works at Apple or Tesla or Google or something like that makes $800,000 a year, and in the next 6 months is going to leave that job and come build the next Google for the frequency era through my vision. I know that will happen. And so that's happening. I envision the environments of like, this is where there's going to be temporary places where people go to get activated. There'll be semi-permanent where people live for like 3 to 6 months. There'll be permanent places that people decide, I'm going to exit the matrix. I'm going to live here instead with a whole different society. That I envision that. And then a couple of days later, the person shows up, says, hey, we really want to do this. And I haven't even made my own language. They're like, these are going to be encoded environments. And they use language that I haven't even made up yet that is like perfectly in my head. And so everything, once the blueprint is set energetically, everything comes to be built. And then it just basically, I've almost seen it like the whole thing I'm just sitting there and the whole thing gets built through me.
They can pretty much finish your sentence because they themselves are also receiving very similar codes that are necessary in that entire architecture.
They're over here, holding on over here. I'm holding on over here, slowly. They're like, oh, okay, here's where we are.
I want to make this very, very clear to those who are listening. When you're at this vibration, when you're at this frequency that Chris is at, the entire universe bends to your favor. Like, time does not exist. And the reality of people just, going upon their lives, whatever it is, no longer takes place in your world. Everyone that's necessary to make this happen, because it's not coming from us, it's coming through us. It's a grander scheme of play. We're just little workers for it to make it happen. The other workers that are meant to join it, whether they're at this vibration or not, will have this pull within them to be magnetized towards the mission, towards whatever we're building, effortlessly. We do not have to convince. There is no sales.
No
in
job
this
posting.
World. There's no like real. There's no. Let me make an offer. 1.2 million. Google's doing 1.8. No. There's none of that. There is. They know deep within. It's a bodily reaction deep within their heart. It's a soul connection.
I need to do this.
That is like, I will drop everything in my life. I need to do this now. It is like this mission, this innate knowing. And when that is happening, when we are being worked through, this is how everything is built so fast, because
You're not the one doing it.
You're not the one doing it. You're just the pen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the hand will go at the speed necessary to write down. We're just the pen. And if we maintain that level of awareness and do not fall back into the ego of saying, nope, this is mine, this is my creation, this is all my people. If we can stay away from that and simply just embody the identity, if that's even a thing, I don't even want to use a term anymore. It's such a 3D term. But if we embody the fact that we are simply just a conduit, a vessel, a channel, the pen for everything that we're building, that is what allows us to exponentially increase our manifestation powers.
Yes. And I know for everybody listening that it feels impossible for me to say that for me now compared to in 2021 when I was scaling my first company, that I work 10% of the time and get 100 times more done. That would be 1,000x increase in productivity from when I used to. They would say that's impossible. You're exaggerating. Like there's no way. And it's 100% true. I do work 10% of the time that I used to work. It depends what you define work as too. It's like, what does work mean? Like, is it sitting in front of a laptop, clicking away on things and sitting on fucking Zooms? That's what I used to think work was. Like that is like a linear approach to work, and oftentimes a waste of time.
There's no such thing as a work-life balance in this density. It's just life.
It's just living.
And you're creating and you're building as it's happening through you.
And to have the the thing that the biggest thing that happened for me is that to recognize that there are finite periods of time where my frequency is operating at such a level that I can get something done that might take 3 months and get it done in an hour. And then there's a plenty of time where my frequency is at a certain level where I shouldn't be trying to force doing anything. And that the 3D schedule of, okay, from Monday through Friday, from 8 to 6, if you want to be work a little harder than everybody else, that we're going to sit at a desk and we're going to fill our calendar in 15, 30 minute or 60 minute slots to get as much done as possible, regardless of how we feel or if we're in the creation mode, that is not creation. That's not creating. And so now I have no schedule. Nobody is able to go, like you used to be able to click a link and book time with me. Like, nope, that's not how it works. I live in the now. And I do the most important thing based on my frequency now. So sometimes I feel called to call someone, and I'm not going to say, hey, do you want to schedule a call for next Tuesday? I'm going to ring them. If they don't answer, I'm going to move on. Someone can call me. If I want to answer that call at the point, I can answer that right then. If not, I'll let it go and call them back if I want.
And if it's meant to be, they will answer.
Exactly.
And if it's meant to be, we'll answer. It's just if they are also being divinely guided to make whatever mission, whatever thing we're building possible, they will just be there at the correct time. Their life will present itself with the proper amount of freedom to have the space to hear from you or to reach out from you to you or to just build in general. It's this perfect symbiotic game that takes upon our entire life. Man, I love it.
And so it's like, what is productivity? Like, right? So like that is a question to pose for yourself, anyone that's listening to this. What is productivity? Productivity, by definition, is output per unit of time. And so by working more hours, you actually you work against yourself in the productivity calculation. That if you work 10 hours and produce 10 things, or you work 60 hours and you produce 60 things, you're actually at the same level of productivity. But oftentimes as you work more, your productivity goes down, that you have a decline. And so what if instead of working 60 hours and getting 60 things out, we could work 1 hour and get 60 things out, and then the other 59 hours we can do whatever the fuck we want. And that to recognize that paradigm and then use the other 59 hours to cultivate the frequency for that 1 hour of massive productivity by having new direct experiences, silence and solitude, radical self-care. There's a very, very clear formula to use to get yourself ready and then to know, okay, I'm in the production zone, let's go.
What is that for you? I just coined this term. It just came to me as you're saying it, like the frequency calibration or optimization protocol. Do you have that for yourself of certain activities that you know will get you in that mode?
Yeah, me and maybe you know Jesse Elder. I don't know.
Jesse Elder,
me
no.
and Jesse Elder made this, and we together we call it the superpower protocol.
Wow.
Because I view these experiences as superpowers. There's no other way to describe them. They're supernatural abilities that most people would believe were impossible. So it's superpowers. And that there's a 4-quadrant layout, and that you have direct leading edge experiences. So experiencing something new that causes your brain to need to have a different experience than just sitting in a mundane task. So that could be like going and trying kite surfing, which I do, but it could also be trying a new move in kite surfing. So it's not like you have to just bounce around doing something new every time. It's like actually having you can have a new experience inside of a familiar activity as well. Trying a 11B or whatever the scoring is, rock climbing instead of a 10A, you know what I mean? Like that's a new leading edge experience. So you have direct leading edge experiences, travel, activities, learning how to play music, learning a new task, learning a new skill within a task, something like that. That many people would say going rock climbing is not productive. And I used to believe that too, and now I think differently. So you have that. You have the 0 point, which is stillness, silence, solitude combined. Most people, and me, when I was younger, are scared of this place because it forces you to be with yourself and potentially confront things that you're afraid of or that you want to avoid. And you can use 2 out of the 3. So sometimes it'll be stillness and solitude, and I'll listen to music, right? So, but a true 0 point of all 3 of them can be very powerful. And for that element, I usually do that when I'm in a like integration or what I would consider like a non-peak frequency state, to recognize, okay, I'm not in the production zone. I don't want to go rock climbing. I don't want to produce. I'm going to go here. And so that sometimes good signals come in. Sometimes you're just literally like almost recharging your own battery. And it gives time for the direct experiences and all of the other experiences that you have in your brain to form new connections and new potential, ideas and pathways. The third quadrant is radical self-care, treating yourself like a professional athlete or a professional like Beyonce or LeBron James or whoever you would look at, like who you spend time with, like exact food that you eat, what supplements you take, how you exercise, like how much you sleep, all these things, like treating yourself truly. Like Beyonce, if she was doing a concert at Madison Square Garden, she would rent out the whole floor of the hotel because even just walking by someone in the hallway would disrupt her flow. And so literally booking the whole hotel room because she took her performance that seriously, like that's radical self-care. And then lastly, you have the production zone. And the production zone is the 10 to 20% of your time where you are ready to produce and to recognize that you're in that space and then to go into it and get exponential, like non-linear output. And the production zone is I go in with a purpose and I produce something. It's the difference between being a painter and an artist. It's like I produce something for an audience, or I produce something for society. That's production. So sitting there and journaling is not the production zone. You have to actually create something that then gets shared, or the architecture that gets shared. And to recognize if I'm not in the production zone, then I can feel my frequency and I can move into a different category. And that framework is very powerful, and will show you that sitting in front of a laptop 12 hours a day is not productive.
I can share a personal story with this because I hit this point about 2 months ago where I was spending way too much time from the laptop because I'm still having that story in my head around productivity. The more time there, the better. And I swear, the moment I was like, you know what? I don't care. Every single day, at about 1 or 2, I'm going to close the laptop. I'm going to go to Lifetime on the street and play some basketball like I'm 12 years old again.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to some high vibrational music and maybe some John Summit, whatever it is.
Ooh,
and
some
then
John Summit. Let's go.
And then just play and have some fun. And whether it's a game there, just shooting by myself for half an hour, game changer. When I come back to work, I am 10 times more productive, but also when I'm there in the moment, when I'm just messing around with no real aim in sight, I'm just having fun. Sometimes I'm working some dribbling skills, sometimes not. That's when the flow begins. And that's when I think probably very similar to you, I get these moments where it doesn't just feel like it's my imagination. It feels like an entire bodily experience that is being projected through my mind. I see the future. It's like I see what the next level of myself looks like. I see myself on stages. I see myself doing all these things. And I'm like, I get emotional while playing basketball. I'm like starting to tear up a little bit. I'm like, oh, I know it's coming. It's coming. And it only happens in those moments of being that we receive what we're meant to receive to allow us to create properly. And I love how you said about solitude, because about a year ago, just intuitively, I created this protocol. It's called Solitude 60. It was actually from Naval Ravikant off a podcast listened a while ago. He never made it into something, so I did. And it was just 60 minutes a day for 60 days straight. You just find 60 minutes, just be by yourself. No, you don't need to meditate. You don't need a certain app or anything. You just be by yourself and your thoughts. Because what I've realized is everything we're talking about when it comes to the new awareness level, and then as soon as we can, integrating that happens best when we actually allow no distractions in. That voice comes in of what's meant to happen for that next level of your path to the highest version of yourself becomes very, very clear. And then just act on that right after the solitude. And then you've just shortened your window. You condense time of what would have taken you months, years, decades to understand about yourself. You can know within 2 hours. So I love that you have this protocol, because it's going to work for no matter what stage you are. If you're still in the 3D and you still have 24 hours in a day, whatever it is, everything you just said works there. And it's also working at this stage. It's the most simple things. It's play and stillness, it feels.
And then taking care of your body.
Maintenance.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it.
Your body and your mind, your energy, I suppose, all of it.
I love it. It's incredible.
Total game changer.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Anything that's come to you at this moment for the audience to understand about who you are, what you're here to do, or just anything coming up for you?
I like to, for any of you that have made it this far, 1, thank you. 2, congratulations. Like some heady and heavy topics. And I'll say that just because you are not able to understand some parts or all of this intellectually does not mean that it doesn't exist. And that if you believe that this doesn't exist, then you will be correct and it will not exist for you. And the moment when I stopped being a participant in it's not my intuition, I logically came up with the idea that I should move to Austin, even though I felt magnetically pulled and a voice in my head saying move to Austin. No, that was just me rationalizing. There's no income tax there, and it's going to be, the weather is going to be nicer. And when I stopped thinking that I'm just rationally coming up with these things, and I celebrated that I had that intuition and I followed that intuition, and look what it did. Look what it's done for the acceleration of my life and the development of me as a human. And I started to see the magic that's happening for me all the time, small or big, that as I started to lean into that, more came. And that your beliefs around reality is all that dictates what you experience. And so if you don't believe that these things are real and you're listening to us and say, oh, like they should go do another mushroom trip, ha, 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 like they must be on acid, and da, 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 da. If that's what you believe, then fine. Like you won't experience some of the things that we have. And I think that you'll miss out on the most blissful, amazing parts of life in reality. And for those that want more of this, but maybe don't know what to do or where to start or things like that, a couple of things that you can do to get started. Number one is to basically audit everything in your life, and say, does this thing, person, environment, activity, habit increase my frequency or not? And make the decision that your new identity does not be experience with those things that don't amplify your frequency. If you say, I'm not going to watch porn anymore, and you continue to have the same identity, then 14 days later, most likely you're going to be watching porn again. You actually have to change your full identity. It could be with cigarettes, drugs, people, it doesn't matter. And so audit all the things that you're doing and be honest with yourself. Is this thing moving me forward in my life or not? Unemotionally. So you do the same thing for your mom and your uncle and your habits and your friends and where you live and all of it. And when you do it, you'll find that, especially if you're in a lower frequency, that most of the things that you do and experience aren't helping you move forward in your life. And that was pretty true for me 5 or 6 years ago. And I went through a period of spending most of my time alone, and because that was better for me than having my frequency drained by low frequency people. And that can be really hard for people. But anyway, just audit it and just create an initial awareness around the things around you and how they impact you. Number two is getting to a level where you can see that my thoughts and beliefs create the reality that I experience. And so to be aware, to raise your awareness to your own limiting beliefs, and to be able to see how what you believe, like my girlfriend doesn't respect me, is maybe a belief that you have if you're in a low vibe relationship, that then whatever your girlfriend does, it doesn't matter what she's doing, you project that belief into reality and you say, because she didn't take the trash out, she doesn't respect me. Because she didn't text me before she got home, she doesn't respect me. And you don't see that it's your belief that's causing that, not her. And that if you believed my girlfriend loves and respects me, and that you flip the belief totally over, that you'd see that when she didn't text you before she got home, it's because she was driving and didn't want to text you and wanted to be safe. And so that's like a super simplistic example, but it exists everywhere in your life. But whether you're and the beliefs that you have about yourself, not just about other people, and the beliefs about what you have is possible. And so those two things at like the entry level can be super impactful. Some of the companies that are being built, either through me or with me, I don't even really know how to. I don't really consider them my companies anymore. Will have things for these levels of frequency. And then if you're at a higher level, let's say you're like you consider yourself spiritual and you like can feel frequency, but you feel like you're at a dead end. It's realizing trying to see the loop that you're in, realizing that there's nothing more that you need to fix, that everything that you need, you already have. And that by being around the right frequencies of people, that you will see there's nothing to fix, and all these things that I have in me are here. I've had them all along. And I think for people that are at an elevated state, it really is the people and the environments that you are in will cause whether you stagnate or ascend. I don't even like the word ascend. It doesn't feel right. Whether you feel stuck in a loop or whether you break out of that.
It's like the final step of self-development is realizing you've been perfect all along. 100%. One thing that really stands out to me as you say that is being very cognizant of the words that we speak. Not only of ourselves, I can never quit smoking, see how hard it is. but I got this draw towards pizza, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But also it's like, this is going to be hard. This is going to take a long time. All those,
I need to suffer.
Yeah. Those words that, the learning of words is spelling. We are casting spells because we're very powerful beings. We're casting spells onto our reality. And so that, I love that, the advice you're giving, the self-auditing of your thoughts. But I would say, to add on to that, your words, and just try for a day. Like, what if you just went one day where your only objective for that day is to audit yourself upon trying your best to not say a single negative thing about yourself. If we can do that starting point, that's going to shift us into new reality instantly. And then once we no longer speak poorly about ourselves, we will not speak poorly about others. And then when we do not speak poorly about others, the universe will not provide us with a reality in which there are things that are worth speaking poorly about, which means it will only bring us the right people, the right opportunities, the right places. That will be the opposite of speaking poorly, of being poor. It will be abundance. It'll be love. It'll be light. It'll be everything we ever possibly could imagine. But it starts with what seems like your process of self-auditing.
It's literally just you.
It's just you.
That's it.
That's all spirituality is.
It's like,
it's just you.
It's just, it has nothing to do with anything around you. And that you realize that I am creating all of this for myself. And there's a piece of it where it's like, it's not that bad things don't happen. It's that you don't view them as bad anymore. Like, we didn't get to duality, and I'm not sure we want to open this can of worms again, but like, it's not that, you have experiences that where you're in danger, or that you're walking on the street and a homeless guy throws a stick at you. Like it's just that you realize, I know that I shouldn't walk in that neighborhood, but I did it anyway because I was feeling urgency. Like, this is a reminder to me that there's nothing to be, there's no urgency, there's no rush. And so I don't see it as a bad thing. I'm like, that was just, reality is feedback for you. And so if there are bad things happening to you, to see that as feedback about what does that mean about me?
Yes. And seeing it as something we can be grateful for, because that homeless man throwing a stick at us could have stopped us there and be like, I'm going to turn the other way. As opposed to, if he hadn't had done that, we kept walking on the street, there could have been something much, much worse for us later on. Seeing it all as feedback of whether we're on the right path or not allows us to have gratitude for everything that happens in our life. And so the duality of good or bad is no longer existent. It's just feedback. It's just all things we can be grateful for. I love it, my friend.
Yeah, that's a good way to end, because saying something is good or bad is just subjectively projecting your comparison between the present moment and some other thing in the past, or your expectation around I made $100,000, but last year I made $120,000, so this year was bad, right? Maybe you had to take a step backwards to realize you should quit your fucking shitty job, so you should go and start your company, and all of a sudden you're going to make more money. And so the judging of good and bad is a core sign of somebody that has that their own beliefs are limiting their reality. So you can do that audit as well. When you audit everything else in your life, you can audit whether you still judge if things are good or bad. And if you do, that's also a sign.
And there's a metaphysical game on top of that, where it just is, what is giving me energy and what is taking away my energy. And there's a game on top of that of understanding, I'm actually the one that's allowing this to take away energy from me or give. But there's different levels to it. But just starting with that audit of what is making me feel more love, more joy,
more like myself,
more authenticity, and living life in that way is the way to get to the point where we are fundamentally in sync with the universe. And that is when things can really begin to happen through us and create these incredible realities that Chris and myself is beginning to do are happening.
And many people will, I view myself as special and non-special, special and that everyone else can also experience this level of specialness. And so many people will experience these things. and that I'm excited for people and for humanity, and that that we got to do this podcast again for the first time in 2 years. What an episode to bring back. I appreciate you having me on.
Setting the tone going forward, man.
Let's go. There's going to be, a big act to follow. I'm just playing.
Where can they, seriously. I'm going to need to really get the lineup going after this one.
No,
where
Danny
can they,
will be great.
Where can they find you online?
I release a podcast called We Are Encoded. So that's on Apple and Spotify, which is, literally just me playing around with these concepts and sharing things that I view myself as in like the 1400s, some person would get on a ship and they would like sail the ship and hope to find like a new land that no one had discovered before. I kind of view myself as that in this stuff. So I'm like on the ship, like bringing back the reports of like the things that I'm learning and seeing for people that are on the mainland that might want to come to this new land. So that's the podcast. And then I post most of my content on Insta. I've been like, I built my brand or my old identity on LinkedIn. And I think there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that need what I have to say. So I'll probably bring that back pretty soon too. But Instagram's been the main place where I've been posting recently.
You're a trailblazer, my friend. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much. What a blast.
Yeah, thank you. If you made it this far, first off, wow. It takes a certain vibration to even be capable of not clicking away from this, but just immensely grateful for you to join me on this journey. Now that we're back doing Question Everything, expect episodes every single week.
Whoa, that's a commitment.
Yeah, it is a commitment.
Let's go.
Well, time doesn't exist anymore, so we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, very much looking forward to starting this up again. Thanks again for coming. I love you unconditionally. Have a great week, y'all. Peace.